I never thought success would taste this bitter. Standing in my penthouse office, watching news of my company's acquisition hit the headlines, all I could think about were my son David's last words to me. "You're dead to me. Lisa was right about you all along." That was 3 years ago, on what should have been his wedding day. Instead, I found myself standing in an empty church, holding a manila envelope that could have saved him from the biggest mistake of his life. But Lisa had gotten to him first. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same day, I signed the papers to sell my cybersecurity company for $89 million. My phone lit up with his first message in 3 years. "Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Maybe it's time we talked." I stared at those words until they blurred, remembering how I built my company from nothing after his father died. I worked endless nights while David was young, making sure he never felt the poverty I grew up in. All those sacrifices, just to lose him to a woman who played him like a fiddle. The next message came quickly. "Lisa and I are having an anniversary party next weekend. Small gathering, close family only. It would mean a lot if you came." Of course it would, especially now that I was worth millions. My assistant, Sarah, who'd been with me through everything, watched me read the messages. "Are you going to tell him what we found?" I touched the locked drawer in my desk, the one containing 3 years of surveillance reports. Not yet. The anniversary party was at their house, the one I helped with the down payment for, before everything fell apart. Lisa answered the door, her smile as fake as her designer bag. "Margaret, we're so blessed you could come." The living room was filled with her family, not his, the same people who'd watched silently when she accused me of trying to sabotage their wedding. Her mother, who backed up her lies. Her brother, who threatened to call the police if I didn't leave. David hugged me stiffly. "Mom, you look successful." "Money does that," I replied quietly, watching Lisa's eyes sharpen with interest. The next 2 hours were an exercise in restraint. Lisa paraded around, flaunting her luxury purchases while dropping hints about their temporary financial setbacks. David kept bringing up his startup's funding problems, looking at me with poorly disguised hope. "Actually," Lisa chirped, clinking her glass for attention, "we have wonderful news to share." She placed her hand meaningfully on her stomach. "We're expecting. David's finally going to be a daddy." The room erupted in congratulations. I felt sick, knowing what was in those surveillance photos. "Of course," she continued, her eyes fixed on me, "we're a bit concerned about the timing. With the startup struggling and the medical bills." She let the sentence hang. David jumped in. "Mom, I know we've had our differences, but family is family. And now with a baby coming." I opened my purse slowly, feeling every eye in the room on me. "You're right, David. Family is family. That's why I've been keeping these safe for 3 years." Lisa's smile faltered as I pulled up the first photo. "What's that?" "This." I laid it on the coffee table. "This is you, last summer, in the Grand Cayman Islands, with Michael Roberts, your husband." The room went dead silent. "Your other husband," I clarified, watching the color drain from Lisa's face. "The one you married 6 years ago and never divorced. The one you've been funneling money to, including the $50,000 I gave you for the wedding." David stared at the photo, at Lisa wrapped around a man who wasn't him. What is this?" "Keep going," Lisa's mother snapped. "Show them all your fake evidence. You're just jealous that David chose us over you." "Jealous?" I pulled out the rest of the file. Here's Lisa emptying David's accounts the day after he cut me off. Here she is meeting with Michael every month. Here's the offshore account they've been filling with your startup's investor money. And here, I paused, watching Lisa's face. Here are her medical records from last week. She's not pregnant, David. She's never been pregnant. Lisa lunged for the papers, but her brother held her back, his face shocked. "Lisa, tell me this isn't true." But Lisa's silence said everything. David picked up the photos with trembling hands. 3 years, he whispered. "You've known for 3 years? Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. The day of your wedding." That's what was in the envelope Lisa said contained threats against her, the same envelope she burned before you could see it. The room erupted into chaos. Lisa's mother screamed about lies, but her brother was already on his phone, staring at the banking records I just sent him. David just sat there, looking at his life falling apart in glossy 8x10 photos. But this wasn't even the worst of it, because in my purse, there was one more envelope. one that would reveal just how deep Lisa's deception went, and who helped her target my son in the first place. As Lisa's carefully constructed world began to crumble, I caught her eye across the room. She thought she'd won 3 years ago. She thought money was my weakness. She never understood that a mother's love isn't about money. It's about patience and timing and knowing exactly when to show your hand. And as I reached for that final envelope, I knew this anniversary party was about to reveal one last, devastating truth. The silence in the room was deafening as I held the final envelope. Lisa's eyes were fixed on it, a flicker of real fear finally breaking through her perfect mask. Before I opened this, I said quietly, I want everyone to understand something. I didn't spend 3 years just collecting evidence of Lisa's fraud. I spent 3 years tracing it back to the source. David looked up from the photos, his face ashen. The source. Your wife didn't choose you randomly, David. You were selected, profiled, targeted. I turned to Lisa's mother, Patricia, who had suddenly gone very still. Weren't you Pat? Or should I use your real name, Patricia Roberts? The room collectively gasped. Lisa's brother dropped his phone. That's right, I continued. She's not just Lisa's mother. She's Michael Roberts' mother too. This wasn't just a con, it was a family business. I opened the envelope, spreading documents across the coffee table. Bank statements, marriage certificates, police reports from 3 different states. 6 young entrepreneurs in the last decade, all targeted the same way. A chance meeting with a beautiful woman, a whirlwind romance, and then I looked at David, my heart breaking for him. A mother-in-law who helps orchestrate the perfect wedding while her son, the other husband, quietly drains every account. Patricia stood up, her designer outfit suddenly looking like a costume. You have no proof. Actually, I do, because you made one mistake. You got greedy. I pulled out a final document. You see, my cybersecurity company, the one that just sold for millions, we don't just protect data. We track it. And 3 days ago, you tried to hack into my corporate accounts. Lisa's brother, if he even was her brother, started edging toward the door. Don't bother Tom, or James, or whatever your real name is. The police are already outside. As if on cue, sirens wailed in the distance. David stood up, his legs shaky. All this time, everything was a lie. Lisa finally spoke, her voice stripped of its usual sugar-sweet tone. Not everything. I did care about you, David. You were different from the others. Different enough to steal his inheritance? I asked sharply. Different enough to mock him to Michael during your monthly meetings. I played a recording from my phone. Lisa's voice, laughing about how easy David was to manipulate, how he actually believed she loved him. The sound of breaking glass made everyone jump. David had thrown his wedding photo against the wall. The business startup, he whispered. The investor's money. Already transferred to accounts in the Caymans, I confirmed. But there's good news. When you're in cybersecurity, you learn how to follow money. And when you're a mother, you learn to prepare for anything. I handed David another document. I've been replacing every dollar they stole from you. It's all in a new account, under your name only. Plus interest. Lisa's face contorted with rage. You think you're so clever. You think this changes anything? We've done this before. We'll do it again. No, I said, as police officers entered the room. You won't, because unlike your other victims, I didn't just get mad. I got evidence, lots of it, and I shared it with every law enforcement agency from here to the Caymans. Patricia was already being handcuffed, her elegant poise shattered. Tom, or James, was being read his rights. But Lisa just stood there, staring at me with a mixture of hatred and something that looked almost like respect. You know what your biggest mistake was? I asked her as an officer approached. You thought cutting me out of David's life would make you safer, but you just gave me nothing left to lose and all the time in the world to take you down. As they led her away, she looked back at David one last time. For what it's worth, you really were my favorite Mark. David waited until they were gone before collapsing onto the couch. Mom, I'm so sorry. All the things I said to you. I sat beside him, taking his hand like I used to when he was small. You were in love. Love makes us blind sometimes. Not love, he corrected bitterly. Manipulation. God, I was so stupid. No, I said, squeezing his hand. You were kind, trusting, and they took advantage of that. But those are still good qualities to have. Just, maybe with better security next time. A weak laugh escaped him. Security. Is that why you really built your company? To protect people like me? I thought about those long nights coding, building firewalls and tracking systems, all while watching Lisa's scheme unfold. Let's just say you gave me extra motivation. The police spent hours taking statements. By the time they were done, the sun was setting, casting long shadows through the house Lisa had once decorated so perfectly. I can't stay here, David said, looking around at the fake life he'd been living. Come home, I offered. Your old room's still there. He nodded, tears finally falling. Mom, how do I start over? I pulled him into a hug, feeling 3 years of distance melt away. The same way I did after your father died. One day at a time, with people who really love you. As we left the house, I looked back one last time. Lisa had thought money was power. She never understood that real power comes from love, the kind that waits, watches, and never gives up. But there was still one more truth to reveal. Because in my final envelope, there was one more document. One that would show David just how deep this conspiracy went, and why his father's death might not have been the accident we thought it was. Some family secrets, I was learning, cast very long shadows. 2 weeks after Lisa's arrest, I sat in my home office, staring at the last piece of evidence I hadn't shown David. The timing had to be right. He was still processing the destruction of his marriage, sleeping in his childhood room, barely eating. My phone buzzed. A message from my private investigator. Michael Roberts started talking. You were right about 2018. The year David's father died in that accidental car crash. A soft knock at my door. David stood there, looking younger in his old Yale sweatshirt. Mom, can we talk? I slipped the file into my drawer. Always. He sat down, fidgeting with his wedding ring, which he still hadn't taken off. The detective called. They found all the money Lisa and her family stole, not just from me, but from the others too. But he hesitated. They found something else, something about Dad's accident. My heart stopped. What did they tell you? Nothing specific, just that they need to review the case. He looked at me closely. But you already knew that, didn't you? Slowly, I opened the drawer and pulled out the file. I wasn't sure when to show you this. You've been through so much already. Mom, please, no more protecting me. I need to know everything. I spread out the documents. Your father's brake lines weren't worn out naturally. They were tampered with, and the last person to service his car was Michael Roberts. David finished, his face going pale. Lisa's other husband. He owned that repair shop under a different name. The same shop Patricia recommended to your father. I showed him the proof. Business records, insurance claims, a pattern spanning years. David's hands shook as he read. They killed him because he was investigating financial irregularities at his bank. Irregularities involving the Roberts family's accounts. I pulled out more documents. He was close to exposing their whole operation, so they eliminated the threat. And then they sent Lisa after me, David said hollowly, to make sure I never looked into it. But they didn't count on one thing, I said softly. They didn't know your father had already sent me everything he found, the night before he died. David looked up sharply. You've known all this time? I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. Not until Lisa led me to her family. That's why I built my cybersecurity company, not just to protect others, but to create the tools I needed to track them down. The company's sale, David whispered. The timing wasn't random. No, I knew once I went public with the evidence about your father, I'd need resources to protect us. The company sale gave us both security and credibility. David stood abruptly, pacing the room. All these years you were working on this, while I treated you terribly, believed their lies. Hey, I caught his arm. You were a victim too. We both were. But now we can finish what your father started. Make them pay for everything they've done. How many other families? He asked. How many other victims? We found 12 so far. 3 deaths ruled as accidents, millions stolen. I pulled up my laptop. But now we have Michael's confession. It's over. David picked up a photo of his father, the last one taken before the accident. He died trying to protect people from them. And I ended up married to one of them. Your father would understand. He'd be proud of how you're handling this now. A notification popped up on my laptop. Breaking news. The Roberts family indictments were going public. Years of fraud, manipulation, and now murder charges. What happens now? David asked, still holding his father's photo. Now, we help the other families recover what was stolen. We make sure the truth comes out. And then, I smiled slightly. We start over. Together. David finally slipped off his wedding ring, placing it on my desk. Lisa sent me a letter from jail, asking for forgiveness, claiming she really did fall in love with me. And what do you think? He straightened up, looking more like his father than ever. I think some people don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve justice. As the sun set over the city, we sat together, planning our next steps. The Roberts family thought they could tear us apart, but they only made us stronger. They thought money was the most powerful weapon, but they never understood the force of a mother's love, or a son's determination to honor his father's legacy. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from those closest to us, but sometimes those wounds lead us back to the truth and to the people who truly love us. And as I watched David finally smile again, I knew that while the past 3 years had cost us dearly, what we gained was priceless. The truth, justice, and each other. Some say revenge is best served cold, but I've learned it's best served with love, patience, and the unshakable determination of a mother protecting her child.